Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling confused, not just unsure, but questioning your own memory, wondering if you overreacted, second guessing something you were certain about just minutes before? And maybe you've said this to yourself: maybe I'm the problem, maybe I misunderstood, maybe I'm being too sensitive. That sounds familiar. You may have experienced something known as gaslighting. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation where someone causes you to doubt your own perception of reality. It's not always obvious. It's not always loud or aggressive. In fact, some of the most damaging forms of gaslighting are subtle and happen over time. It can sound like, "That never happened. You're overreacting. You always make things bigger than they are. You're remembering it wrong." And at first, these statements might seem small. But when they happen repeatedly, they begin to reshape how you trust your thoughts, your feelings, or your experiences. So instead of standing firm in what you know to be true, you start looking to the other person to define reality for you. And that's where the real damage begins. Because over time, gaslighting doesn't just affect your perception of a situation, it affects your confidence in yourself. You begin to question your instincts. You hesitate before expressing your feelings. You start filtering your thoughts through someone else's version of reality before even speaking. And eventually, you may even find yourself in a place where you feel disconnected from your own voice. So why does gaslighting happen? In some cases, it's intentional. A person may use gaslighting as a way to avoid accountability, control the narrative, or maintain power in the relationship. If they can convince you that your memory or interpretation is wrong, they don't have to take responsibility for their actions. But in other cases, gaslighting can be more unconscious. Someone may deflect, minimize, or deny things because they're uncomfortable with conflict, unwilling to face their behavior, or lacking emotional awareness. Either way, the impact on you is the same. You begin to lose trust in your own reality. And when that happens, it becomes very difficult to maintain a healthy sense of self within the relationship. So what does gaslighting actually look like in everyday situations? It can show up when you bring up a concern, and the conversation immediately gets flipped back onto you. Instead of addressing what happened, the other person focuses on your reaction. You're too emotional. You're always starting problems. This is why it's hard to talk to you. Now the focus is no longer the issue. It's on you. It can also show up as a denial of things that clearly happened. You might remember a specific conversation, a promise, or an action, and the other person insists it never occurred. Or they'll rewrite it in a way that removes their responsibility. And over time, this creates a pattern where you feel like you need proof from your own experiences, like your memory alone isn't enough. Another form of gaslighting is minimization. You express something that hurts you, and instead of being acknowledged, you're told it's not a big deal. That's not worth being upset over. You're making something out of nothing. And while that may seem small in the moment, repeated minimization teaches you to dismiss your own emotions. So how do you protect yourself from this? The first step is awareness. Start paying attention to how you feel after conversations. Do you feel heard? Or do you feel confused? Do you feel understood? Or do you feel like you need to defend your reality? Your emotional response is often the first signal that something isn't right. The second step is grounding yourself in your own experience. If something felt wrong to you, it matters. Your feelings don't need to be approved by someone else to be valid. You don't need to over-explain, justify, or gather evidence just to express how something affected you. Another important step is setting boundaries around communication. That might sound like, "I'm open to talking about this, but I'm not going to question my own memory of what happened." Or, "I'm willing to hear your perspective, but I also trust my experience." Boundaries don't require you, the other person, to agree. They require you to stay in line with yourself. And finally, take an honest look at patterns. One isolated misunderstanding is not the same as repeated manipulation. But if you consistently feel like your reality is being dismissed, distorted, or denied, that's not a communication issue. That's a relational dynamic that needs to be taken seriously. Because healthy relationships are built on mutual respect for each other's experiences. You should feel safe expressing your thoughts. You should feel heard when you speak. And you should never feel like you have to disconnect from your own reality just to maintain a relationship. So here's something to reflect on. Think about your recent interactions. Are there moments where you felt unsure of your own perception after talking to someone? Are there patterns where your feelings are consistently dismissed or minimized? If so, don't ignore that. Start trusting your awareness. Start honoring your experience and remind yourself of something important. Clarity doesn't come from someone else defining your reality. It comes from you trusting your own. And the more you reconnect with that trust, the less space manipulation has to exist. I'm Phoenix. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone else on social media who might need to hear it. Mind and Motive Podcast. Change the way you love. See you next time.